when you finally stop texting, when you stop chasing, and when you decide to step back completely, that's when everything starts to shift. The silence you create isn't just absence, it's energy. It's the withdrawal of your attention, your presence, and your emotional validation. For the longest time, she felt that she could always rely on your message to be there, that no matter how distant or inconsistent she became, you'd always be the one to bridge the gap. But when that message never comes again, something powerful happens inside her mind. At first, she doesn't even notice. She's distracted, confident, certain that you'll reach out like always. But days turn into weeks, and that expectation begins to fade into confusion. She starts wondering if something's changed in you. Maybe she scrolls through her phone at night, looking for your name in her notifications. Maybe she checks your social media, quietly observing, trying to understand why the energy feels different. The man who used to text first, the one who used to show up, suddenly isn't there anymore. That silence, it speaks louder than anything you could ever say. It's not about manipulation or trying to make her chase. It's about reclaiming your peace, your balance, your emotional strength. You're no longer responding out of fear of losing her. You're acting out of respect for yourself. When a man truly embraces silence, it's not about playing hard to get. It's about finally letting go of what was never in his control. That moment you stop texting isn't weakness, it's power. Because now you're not seeking attention, you're commanding it through your absence. You've stopped giving your energy to someone who didn't value it. And ironically, that's when she begins to feel its value the most. The same attention she once overlooked becomes the thing she starts to miss. At first, she'll try to justify it. She'll tell herself she's fine, that it doesn't bother her. But deep down, she feels that shift. She notices the peace you carry now, the grounded energy that comes when you're no longer emotionally dependent on her reaction. That's what truly gets her attention. Not neediness, not persistence, but indifference backed by confidence. You've stopped letting your emotions be dictated by her actions. You've learned to be okay with the silence. The irony is that the moment you stop chasing is the exact moment she starts feeling your absence. Your silence becomes her mirror. It reflects her own decisions, her own emotional detachment, and it forces her to question whether she made the right choice in letting you go. That's when she realizes something is different about you. You're no longer waiting for her to choose you. You've already chosen yourself. And that quiet, unshakable energy, that's what pulls her attention back stronger than any message ever could. Sometimes the loudest thing a man can say is nothing at all. When you stop reaching out, something subtle but powerful begins to unfold inside her mind. At first, she may feel a sense of relief, thinking she finally has the space she wanted. But as the days pass, that relief turns into unease. The emotional contrast starts to set in. Your presence, your consistency, the warmth of your attention, all of that created a sense of emotional safety she didn't realize she depended on. Now, with your silence, that emotional energy is gone. And without it, she begins to feel the emptiness that silence brings. She starts to reflect, even if she doesn't want to. She replays old conversations, those moments where you were there, showing up, supporting and caring. What she once took for granted now starts to feel like something she lost. This is the emotional contrast that changes everything. When a man is constantly available, when he gives without pause, his energy becomes ordinary, it's expected, it blends in the background. But the moment that energy disappears, it creates a void, a vacuum that forces her to feel the difference between having you and not having you. That's when her emotions start working against her logic. She might have told herself she was done, that she needed space, or that she wasn't ready for something serious. But now she feels something she didn't anticipate, the quiet discomfort of realizing she misses your presence, not your words, not your attention, but your energy. You see, emotional contrast is powerful because it reveals what's real. When someone is constantly receiving, they can't appreciate the giver. They can't feel the depth of what's being offered because it's always there. But when it's gone, when that silence stretches long enough, they begin to question. That questioning is where reflection begins. She starts to notice small things, how no one texts her with the same care, how the attention she gets from others feels empty compared to what you gave. It's in that space that realization begins to take root. But here's the key: you don't break the silence. You don't rush in when she begins to waver. You stay grounded in your energy. because the power of emotional contrast only grows when you remain centered and detached. The more you hold your line, the deeper her reflection becomes. She starts to wonder if she made a mistake. She begins to see that the comfort she once dismissed was actually a reflection of your value. The silence makes her feel what your presence used to give her, and now that it's gone, she understands the difference. This is where your strength lies, not in chasing validation, not in forcing connection, but in creating space for her to feel. That contrast between the peace of your presence and the emptiness of your absence will speak louder than any conversation could. And when that realization hits her, that's when she begins to see your worth in a way she never could when you were always available. Sometimes it takes losing your energy for her to finally recognize its value. Letting go completely is one of the hardest things a man can do, especially when his heart still cares. But the moment you finally accept that she may never text again, that's the exact moment you begin to find your real strength. It's not about pretending to move on or forcing yourself to act like you don't care. It's about truly detaching from the outcome. You stop needing her response to feel validated. You stop checking your phone every hour hoping her name will appear. You stop building your peace around what she might or might not do. And that emotional shift changes everything. When you let go completely, you start to reclaim your power piece by piece. You begin to realize that your happiness doesn't depend on whether she returns or not. It depends on how grounded you remain in yourself. That's when calmness replaces anxiety. You no longer wake up wondering what she's doing or who she's talking to. Instead, your focus begins to return to your life, your goals, your self respect. The weight of waiting disappears. And ironically, that's the very energy that makes you more attractive, not just to her, but to everyone around you. People can feel when a man is emotionally free. They can sense when he's not desperate for attention, but content within his own world. This strength in letting go comes from understanding that love can't be forced. You can't make someone see your value by constantly reminding them of it. You can only show your value through your absence, through your peace, your discipline, your silence. When you detach, you stop trying to control the story. You give her the freedom to miss you, to want her to reflect. And in that freedom, she begins to feel something she hasn't felt in a long time: respect. Respect for your strength, for your composure, and for the fact that you didn't chase when most men would. She'll notice that something has changed in you. The energy that once revolved around her is now directed inward. You're not reacting anymore, you're responding. You're not trying to prove anything, you're simply being. And that's what makes her think. Starts asking herself questions she didn't ask before. Why isn't he texting? Did he move on? Did I push too far? That curiosity grows with every silent day that passes. She may even test you again, reach out just to see if you'll respond the same way. But your calm, controlled energy will show her that you're not the same man she once knew. The truth is, real strength doesn't come from holding on, it comes from letting go and trusting that what's meant for you will always find its way back. When you finally stop chasing, you start leading. And when you lead with peace and self respect, you no longer need to text first because your energy has already spoken for you. When she finally realizes that your silence is real, that you're not playing games or waiting behind your screen to make a move, something begins to shift inside her. The curiosity that once kept her feeling in control now begins to turn against her. She starts wondering if you've moved on, if you've met someone new, or if you've simply stopped caring. The mystery you've created through your silence begins to take hold of her thoughts. What once felt like certainty now turns into confusion. She was so sure you'd always reach out, that you'd always be the one to close the gap, but this time you didn't. That absence, that unspoken stillness, begins to echo louder than any words ever could. At first, she might try to ignore it. She'll tell herself she doesn't care, that she's fine without hearing from you. But deep down, something feels different. She catches herself checking her phone more often, scrolling through your posts, replaying old moments in her head. She's not doing it because she misses being with you. She's doing it because she's starting to feel the loss of your attention, your presence, your energy. The very thing she once took for granted has now become something she's craving again. But she doesn't understand why. That's the beauty of mystery. It pulls her in without effort. When you no longer reach out, you become unpredictable, you become the unknown, and in the world of attraction, mystery is magnetic. It creates space for her to feel her own emotions without you trying to influence them. You've stepped back and allowed nature to take its course. Now she's the one replaying how things ended, questioning if she handled it right, wondering if you've truly moved on. The uncertainty eats at her more than your silence itself, because now she's beginning to realize she doesn't know where she stands with you anymore. This is when she starts to chase the mystery. Maybe she posts something hoping you'll see it. Maybe she asks mutual friends about you. Maybe she texts something casual like, hey, how have you been? But underneath that simple message lies a deeper question. Do you still care? And that's when you realize that silence wasn't about getting a reaction from her. It was about creating the space for her to rediscover what she lost. You didn't manipulate the situation. You simply allowed her to feel the consequences of her actions. The difference now is that she's no longer chasing validation. She's chasing clarity, and the more she tries to figure you out, the more she starts to remember why she was drawn to you in the first place. That quiet confidence, that emotional control, that inner peace, it becomes attractive again. Your silence made her see what your words never could. And when a woman starts chasing the mystery, that's when the story begins to turn in your favor. Sometimes the most powerful move you can make is to do nothing at all. When you stop waiting for her text, when you stop checking your phone hoping to see her name appear, something powerful happens. You become the unavailable one. You shift from being the man who once sought validation to the man who no longer needs it. You're no longer emotionally bound by the outcome. You're free, and that freedom radiates through everything you do. You carry yourself differently. You speak differently. You walk into every room with a quiet, grounded energy that says, I'm at peace with whatever happens. That's the energy of a man who values himself more than anyone's attention. When she starts to notice that, it shakes her perception of you. The man who once made her feel certain now feels distant, unpredictable, and strong. You've gone from being the pursuer to being the prize. She begins to realize that she no longer has the same hold over you. The conversations that used to revolve around her now revolve around your goals, your growth, your life. You're focused on you, and that shift in focus is magnetic. It's not arrogance, it's presence. You're fully in your own world, not out of bitterness, but out of self respect. What she doesn't realize is that this version of you was always there. She just couldn't see it when you were too busy trying to prove your worth. When a man is chasing, he's giving away his power. He's trying to earn what he should naturally attract. But when that man becomes unavailable, when his life becomes the priority, he steps back into his natural masculine frame. That's when the energy balance flips. She starts thinking about you when she didn't plan to. She starts wondering who's capturing your attention now that you've stopped giving it all to her. That mystery makes her feel something she hasn't felt in a long time: desire. You see, availability kills attraction. When you were constantly available, your presence lost its weight bit. But now, every moment of silence, every day without a message from you carries meaning. Your absence has value because your time and energy have become scarce. You've made yourself rare, and rarity always holds power. The irony is, when you finally stop waiting, she starts waiting for you. When you stop looking for her message, she begins to wonder why yours never comes. Becoming unavailable isn't about ignoring her, it's about choosing yourself. It's understanding that you can't force connection, but you can protect your peace. And the more you live that truth, the more she feels the pull. She begins to respect what she once overlooked, because now she can feel the difference between the man who chased her and the man who chose himself. The moment you stop needing her validation is the moment you become unforgettable. That's when she realizes she's not the one deciding anymore, you are. And that quiet shift in power changes everything. When she finally realizes you've truly moved on, not out of anger, not out of pride, but out of peace, that's when the respect starts to return. At first, she might not even understand why it feels different, but deep down, she can sense the shift. You're not reacting to her anymore. You're not trying to prove a point or make her see your worth. You've already accepted that her validation no longer defines you. That calm detachment, that inner stillness, it speaks louder than any words ever could. You're no longer the man waiting for her to notice your effort. You've become the man who doesn't need her attention to feel complete. And that change in energy is impossible to ignore. She begins to see you differently now. You're not the same person who used to reach out every time there was silence. You've stopped chasing clarity from her because you've already found it within yourself. That kind of emotional independence is rare and it's powerful. She starts to remember why she was drawn to you in the first place, the strength, the composure, the quiet confidence that made her feel safe around you. The irony is that by losing her, you rediscovered what made you valuable all along. You stopped trying to convince her and started living your truth. As your peace grows, so does your presence. You start attracting opportunities, people, and moments that align with your growth. You're no longer stuck in that emotional loop of wondering what she's thinking or doing. And it's exactly in this stage when you've truly moved on that she begins to feel the weight of her choices. The silence that once felt like control now feels like distance. The man she thought she could always come back to is no longer there waiting. He's gone. Not bitter, but better. That realization cuts deeper than any breakup ever could because she knows your silence isn't a tactic, it's real. And when a woman feels that authenticity, when she realizes that you're no longer trying to win her back, something inside her changes. The respect she lost slowly returns because now she sees the version of you she couldn't when you were too focused on her. Your energy has shifted from needing her to appreciating yourself. You're leading with self respect, and that's what reignites attraction on the deepest level. She might reach out again, maybe just to test the water, maybe to feel connected again, but the dynamic will never be the same. You've grown past needing her approval, and that's what truly draws her in. In the end, it's not the silence that brings her back, it's the man you became through it. You stopped waiting for closure and created your own. You turned loss into strength, absence into confidence, and silence into peace. And when she finally realizes that she understands the truth she never saw before, you didn't lose her. She lost you.